All right, so today we're going to be talking about selecting role models and kind of what that means for us. So to get started, what does it mean? Role models typically have something that we don't. Usually it's wisdom, learning, or a challenge. When I think of role models, I think of people that are doing better than I am typically, or people that have come from somewhere very different from me, but have risen above their current situation and excelled in that. So with a role model, they may or may not know they have a responsibility to anyone else to kind of share that and go forward, but we can kind of get into that in a little bit. So the first step in trying to find a role model is getting to know yourself. That's really the starting point of all of this. You're the starting point. You have to know what you're looking for. Seems like a really big task. The first things that you kind of want to get to know about yourself are what you're looking for. You want to know what your strengths are, because you don't always necessarily need to find a role model in those strengths, although you can. The biggest ones that we find role models in are our weaknesses, so things that we want to be better at, that other people from a similar background as us, or people just in general that have excelled in that area, we want to emulate that. So we have to know our weaknesses or where we're weak at in order to do that. Interest, that's a really big one. If I tell you a role model on bodybuilding and you're not into bodybuilding, doesn't do you any good. So you want to make sure that they align with one of your interests, whether it's personal or professional. For me, right now I'm on a fitness kick, so my role models tend to be more fitness oriented, because that's one of my weaknesses in life, is not being very fit. So I'm wanting to find people to help elevate me and help me get along that path. Goals, same kind of vein. As you find your role models, you want to have a set goal, whether it's to improve to a specific point, get a certain level of education, be able to bench press X amount, be able to accomplish a certain test or a certain score on the test. All of your role models for that particular item or goal should be in line with that. You don't ever want to pick a role model that's going to take away from you being able to achieve a goal. And then lastly on here, you want to know what your overall lifestyle is. If you're not a very outgoing person, maybe finding an in-person role model isn't going to be as easy for you as an online personality. With our current age of social media, that's a lot more possible, and has its pros and cons. Another thing about lifestyle is going to be the type of role model that you want is either going to be living the lifestyle you want to live, or is it the lifestyle that you're in achieving the goals that you want to achieve. So we see that all of these things are kind of interwoven together to create a more holistic view on things. So next, we see getting to know your role model themselves. This is going to be a little bit harder to do, especially if you don't choose to do the personal route. You're going to want to find people that contrast you typically. What are their growth points, or where are their growth points? Typically the role models that we select for ourselves didn't get where they were at naturally or all by themselves. They had points in which they had to grow. They had to overcome different challenges. So with that, we want to know, what were those challenges? Sometimes they faced some of the same challenges that we did, and they were able to achieve and overcome those. So knowing their growth points, where they came from, a little bit about their history will help you with that. Traits and characteristics, same kind of thing. You don't want to align yourself with somebody that you wouldn't want to be associated with. You want to make sure that the person that you're selecting as a role model, or that you're looking at to be a role model, is somebody that you would be okay with being seen in public, introducing them to your parents, significant others, someone that you'd be proud to call a friend. Those are the people that would have the similar kind of traits that you're looking for out of all of this. And then back to it, background. A lot of Cinderella stories out there. They're great. Maybe that's not what you need right now. Maybe you just need somebody who came and is at a certain level regardless of what their background is. We're going to see a common thread through this. A lot of this just depends on you and what you're looking for. So for the first set of mentors, I would say it's maybe easier to look at the past. You want to look through history to see kind of what people have done, how they've pioneered, especially if you're looking for things in academics. If you have somebody who, or if you have a goal that is academic, you may want to find somebody who is the pioneer in that field. With that, you can see kind of some of the adversity that they had because they were the first ones to be there. People that have those same interests, we have lots of books on lots of people that did great things, so use them. Just because they're no longer with us doesn't mean they can't still teach us, especially if you start going into your own research about it, discovering different things, whether it be their lifestyle, some of their upbringing, different challenges. One of the really great things about history is it has a different lens or it has a different perspective. One author may view one of the founding fathers more favorably than the other. So with that, it's good to read both sides of it so that you can draw your own conclusion about that role model in particular. Look at Benjamin Franklin. There's all kinds of stuff on Benjamin Franklin. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. You can draw your own conclusion on it. There are still some things that are very objective that he was able to do. He had some ideas that he very clearly wrote about. But, maybe some of the less documented things, his lifestyle, his personality, are what's up for contention. You can kind of decide that for yourself. Another thing to look at are people that still have an impact to this day, even if they've already died. Looking back, founding fathers was a really big one of them. Past leaders. There's a lot that can be learned from people like Alexander the Great, Napoleon, pick a pharaoh. Even if it's traits that you don't necessarily want to do. We like to look at things in a positive light, but at the end of the day, the ones that maybe didn't do so hot, we can still learn from them, and they serve us as a roadmap for us, not necessarily to model, but what to not model, what to stay away from. So people that are no longer here, definitely there. Past leaders, artists, artists, philosophers, free thinkers, all of these people that aren't necessarily constrained by the state or by, I don't want to say external motivations, but that are a little bit more free to do what they want because they work off commission. These people can offer great insight into what time was like then, let you know what it's like now. It maybe enlighten you in a little bit of a different way if you think life's getting really complicated. And then if your role models that you're looking into have role models, look into them as well. I mean, they were inspired by somebody, they were pushed by somebody, somebody helped to shape and mold them, so look into those people as well, kind of like using Wikipedia. You can't use Wikipedia as your main source, but you can definitely look at the references in that page to help you get started on something. So the same thing, when you find one person, figure out who it was that inspired them, who helped them, go look those people out, and then you start building a spider web. Some of it will stay along that same path of whatever your goal is or your interest is in that. And so then that brings us to the present, specifically online. You have lots of options. If you're wanting to go the online route, social media is very powerful in that sense. I would recommend having a separate account for just role models, things that are going to inspire you to do better, be the best you that you can be. That way you don't get it cluttered up with anything else. If you curate your social media feed well, it will be a very inspiring thing. It's a very powerful thing that you'll be able to look at whenever you're losing motivation, whether you don't know what else to do, when you're lacking ideas. That's where these types of role models can come into. For me, like I said, fitness is one of my big ones. So I have a Facebook account that I keep basically for family and friends. Then I have my Instagram account. My Instagram account is only things that are good for me. Looking at people like The Rock, Mark Wahlberg. I'm forgetting all my people on social media now. But all of these people that inspire me to do better, that have workouts out there. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, all these people have great things to offer to me. They put it out there on social media for the world to harness. So that's what my Instagram's for. Just for taking those different people and keeping it all in one collected area. Like I said, it helps to focus in on whatever you're looking for at that time out of a role model. Same thing, we're going to be looking at backgrounds and what they did to get out of the background that they came from. Some people come from a really rough walk of life. That's perfectly fine. They make it great, and knowing that can give you hope and say, okay, things might be bad, but they're not as bad as they were for this person, or I might be doing not so great right now, but I know that even from this point that I'm at, this bottomed out level, I can reach and attain higher if I'm willing to put in the work. So that's where your online personalities really help you out. Typically, inspiring you to do better, building up. It's very hard to be inspired or be motivated by a role model, even if it's an online person, if they're always negative. I take a lot of wisdom from you get what you put out there. So if you're putting out a negative vibe, probably getting a negative vibe back. Same thing. If you're finding people to act as your role models that you're looking up to, that you're trying to help guide you through life, and they're always negative, odds are it's going to be a pretty negative outcome on that. And then thinkers and doers that have an impact on you. Online-wise, once again, they're going to be some of your bigger personalities. But with that, it's a little bit easier. Go look at who they're following. Look at who Joe Rogan follows, because he's got millions of people following him on Instagram. Who does he follow? Because those are people that are either his friends or inspire him, and then you get to make the decision. Okay, does this person help me? Do they inspire me? Do they help me do better, be better, get me to the goal that I want to be at? And this brings us back to looking for a role model in person. This one's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more labor intensive. You got to be in front of people. You have to do your research on that person. You want to make sure that they are truly who you want to have help you out on your journey. You're going to want to talk to different kinds of people just to make sure that the forward face that they are giving you, so if you select a person, they have a pleasant demeanor in front of them, typically that'll be the same all the way across, but it doesn't hurt to ask people that are close to them and say, hey, is this what this person's really like? What are they like when they're with you, just to make sure that what you're getting is a genuine package. You don't want to learn to be fake and do from fake things, and you don't want your role models to be fake. So with that, talk to people, professors, people that you respect in your community, and advisors, whether it's here, the Student Advising Center. All of this builds in a network, because it is a relationship that you're trying to build with an individual person. So if it's a professor that's working in a specific field, ask them, hey, is there anything I can do to help you with? Hey, I'm really interested in this one thing that you talked about. That is how selecting a role model, selecting a mentor, that's how those seeds are planted. You want to have a shared interest with that person, especially in real time. It's going to be really hard for somebody to want to be your mentor if you guys don't have anything in common. But still asking them about maybe that thing that isn't in common can branch out the network. So just because you come and ask me, hey, Mr. Jackson, do you know about underwater basket weaving? I'm going to say, no, I don't. But maybe I can refer you on to somebody else who does know about that. If that's your passion, we will find you somebody. There's somebody out there who's willing to talk with you, who's willing to help you be better at that, because they are maybe one or two steps ahead of you, and then you can grow with them, and you can actually help them grow when they teach you, different aspects of whatever the craft is, the goal is that you're trying to accomplish. And the last thing is to be ready to work. If you're asking for somebody else to invest time in you, respect that time. Make sure that whenever you do talk with them, that you make it productive, that you're not necessarily wasting their time. If you're helping them on a common goal, if it's goal A, make sure you keep it on goal A. Don't necessarily focus on goal B. If that person's made it a point that they want to help you across the board, perfectly fine. But you just want to make sure that you're not wasting their time, you're not standing them up. If you're asked to do something in order to assist them, that you are accomplishing those tasks because they're investing energy in you, and you want to invest your energy back in them. And then overall, that will help your relationship flourish and do a lot better overall. So different things to keep into consideration with that. Your role models and mentors don't usually have answers. A lot of times they just have tools. They will tell you, hey, go check this out. Oh, you've got a question about this. Check out this book. You may find the answer. Or listen to this podcast. That may be something that helps you out. Having somebody to confide in is definitely going to be there, but you should not expect to get answers. Good mentors, good role models, they have tools for you, because ultimately we don't want to give you just one meal. We want to give you the ability to make that meal over and over again. So having those tools from that mentor, from that role model, should be what you get, not necessarily just straight answers. It should be challenging at times. It should be to a point where you are challenged by your role model or your mentor to do better, because ultimately that's why they are your role model, because they are, to an extent, more accelerated or ahead of you in that particular field. You want to make sure that they are challenging you to be better, to do better, whatever the task is that you have selected to be, or for them to be your role model. You want to keep an open mind. That is very difficult to do, because when you have your preconceived notions, you want to stick with those. Completely natural, completely normal. But the reason you're looking for a mentor, the reason you have a role model, the reason you're working with other people and collaborating to get better is because you don't know it all. So making sure that you keep an open mind, keeping your ego in check, be open to suggestion, be open to being challenged. That way you can truly grow those neural pathways to maybe make different connections and do better overall with things. Let's see. Get what you give. Kind of talked about that already. You can have more than one role model overall in life. That's a really big one. Different goals can have multiple role models, because there's multiple people that are modeling that ideal task, the ideal goal that you have. Have multiple ones. They're all going to run along the same vein. Maybe they get there a little bit different, but they still have the same goal in mind. That can be true for different aspects of your life. You can have academic role models. You can have ones that are just focused on, they're really good at playing video games, so they're the role model for you for video games. And somebody's really good at fitness, so I've got role models that are specifically set up for fitness. That's for keeping your social media kind of curated into those goals and interests a little bit more helps. But it's okay to have more than one role model. You don't necessarily have to put all of your energy into one role model. With mentors, it's a little bit different. Mentoring relationships, when somebody takes you under their wing, it's usually a little bit more personal. You don't have nearly as many of those. On your Instagram or your Facebook, you can have millions of followers. That doesn't necessarily mean you're building a relationship with them. With mentors, it is definitely more of a building a one-on-one relationship with that person. You won't have nearly as many of those, but you will get more fruit out of that. You will be able to learn more from that person, because the information that you're getting, the lessons that you're learning with that person are specific to you, versus social media or anything online where it's kind of broad information that sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, but it's being put out there. And back to it. With a mentor, specifically, it's a relationship. It takes time. Some of the closest people that you'll be with will be your mentor, but it's not going to happen overnight. It can take years, potentially, for that to happen. It starts with common interest and grows from there. You will help them. They will help you. Ultimately, both of you are on the same path, essentially, to the same goal. So it's a relationship. It's going to take time. Like I said, the in-person ones are definitely the most difficult, but they are the ones that will yield the most relevant fruit to you. So then we went to practice. As we find role models that are better at a specific topic or a specific subject, we want to practice those things that they're teaching. It's not enough just to open up your Instagram feed and scroll through it and see that these people are doing these great, wonderful, amazing things for charity, whatever the case may be. That's not enough. You don't just pull that information in by standing next to it. You have to dive into it. You want to start to emulate the traits and characteristics that make those people great in their particular field or topic in order to get to that point. Sometimes you got to fake it to make it a little bit, and that's okay. When you are going through and viewing the different information from your role models, you'll start to want to be like them, which is part of the reason of picking a role model, someone who's modeling the role that you want. Eventually, at some point, you have to start practicing that role. It starts small. Maybe it's be a better person. Maybe it's just go to the gym. For me, that was a big one. It took a really long time for me to get to the point where it's like, hey, as long as you're doing something, it's better than not doing anything. So it started out with, I'm going to drive to the gym. I drove to the gym. I'm going to turn around and go home because at least I accomplished something. Baby steps. I was modeling what some of the behaviors of my role models were. Eventually, I got to the point where I was going to the gym more often. Building it small is okay. Small victories lead to overall winning the goal. But you do have to practice it at some point. It's not enough to just look at it. And then give back. So this is one that is really important, in my opinion, because even though you may feel that you're in the infancy of your knowledge for a particular goal or topic, you undoubtedly know more than somebody else. While you may not be a full-fledged role model for them, you do, to that person, know more than they do. So they will look to you, at least to get them started. So if you see somebody who has a shared interest in you, who's maybe on the sidelines going, I don't know if I want to do this, they have a struggling in class, help them out. By you helping them, you're being a good ambassador for whatever your goal is or whatever your desired outcome is. In addition to that, you're also helping yourself get better at that thing. We find more and more with studies that the more you teach something, the easier it is for you to learn it, and the easier it is for you to understand it. The more things that you learn, the more you can learn over time. So my thing is just give it back. Eventually you'll be in a position where you will be a full-fledged role model for somebody, and you want to make sure that you're giving them the attention and the best of you that you can, that maybe you didn't have initially or that you wish you would have had to start out. That way you can help them get to their goal or get to their path a lot quicker. So that is about all I've got. Any questions? Go ahead.
What if they don't want to be your role model?
That's a really hard one. If it is an in-person situation, as much as it sounds bad, you're going to have to find somebody else. You can't force somebody to be in a relationship with you if they don't want to be there. That's the nit and gritty of it. The alternative to that would be to find somebody along the same vein, in a similar field. Maybe one of your role model's friends, assuming that there isn't like a hive mentality of like, oh no, you stay away, oh no. But without knowing more of the situation, I would say you're going to have to find somebody else. You can't force somebody to be in a relationship with you of any kind and it be successful. So if they've made it clear that they are not interested in being a role model for you, then as much as it hurts, take it on the chin and move on. If that person doesn't want to help you, you don't want to get help from somebody who doesn't want to help you because they don't have your best interest at heart. Somebody who wants to be your role model will have your best interest at heart. They will want to help you be the best person you can, even if it means that they don't necessarily have the answers. That person may at least be able to put you in touch with somebody who can better assist you with that. So if somebody doesn't want to help you, then don't let them help you. Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming in today. I have a really bad feeling that did not record. It did.